Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it.
Follow the money if you want to learn what happens at the board meetings.
Yeah.
The former member went rogue.
Who let him in?
That's it.
Who let him in the studio already?
The green room's being painted.
The green room's being painted. What color is it being painted?
Blue.
Blue. The green room's going to be blue.
Yeah. Is this a total gang?
This is it, man.
This is it?
Can I suggest you
Locking the room. I'm locking the studio now.
Lock the building.
Keep turning the roof
down.
I locked the studio. The room.
We're on AML Studios on lockdown.
AML Studios on lockdown. Bruce, Kelly, turn off your camera because, well, you're ugly.
Cam off.
And I'll turn mine off because, well, it'll just make you guys jealous.
It does. We just can't. If it weren't for good looks, you'd have no looks at all, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I was talking to Kaylee Zhang today, and I reminded her that she said the human body is weird, and I said, well, maybe yours is, but I'm quite happy with mine. And by the way, I've heard many times, I've often been referred to as a strikingly handsome man for my age.
There you go.
So there you go. This is a podcast. We're 1 minute and 30 seconds in.
We are.
Wow. I turned it on. I always turn it on when you guys aren't paying attention.
Yeah, I know. You're clever that way. Can I ask a question?
You may, certainly.
Is this the first podcast since the last one and the last one before the next one?
I don't know. I'll have to look in the log because there's a log, right? You have to write everything down.
We do. We have the ML log.
Yeah, the ML log. Let me check on the log. I'll flip some pages. Yep, it is the first podcast since the last one.
Excellent.
And Bob, you might as well speak up because you already burst into the studio. So
we won't go through the whole shenanigans.
Nah, we won't bother with the shenanigans.
We won't torture him with a shrimp.
Well, you'll notice that I came prepared tonight for the McGurk stain. I've got the Scotch guarded Snuggie on.
Perfect.
The entire couch is my oyster.
There you go. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
I didn't think they still made those cow onesies anymore.
Oh yeah, you can still get cow onesies.
Oh, can you?
Oh,
I'm going full Holstein tonight.
There you go.
All right, let's get this show on the road.
That's utterly ridiculous.
Oh boy.
And that's it, folks. Thanks for coming out. Try the veal. He'll be here all week.
Yeah. Keep it on the theme of cows, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if this will be an episode or just a checking in or catching up, but I got a feeling it's going to end up as an episode. So, because one of us can be quite talkative, which is perfect for audio. It works out ideally for audio. So anyways, what we have here tonight is we have Bruce Kelly, the original superfan, the creator of the Kelly Questions, and the president of every model railroad club within 102 miles of Medford, Oregon. Yellow. And then we have Bruce, the moderately agitated mailboy. And I wish, Bruce, we could come up with a list of accolades for you. For everybody else, I seem to have a list of accolades. But for you, it's...
I've known you since about 1990. How's that?
Yeah. Well, is that a positive or a...
Well, I'm thinking it is.
Anyways, it's Bruce, the moderately agitated mailboy.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And our guest tonight is none other, all the way from downtown St. Catharines, Ontario, on the beautiful shores of Lake Ontario, and not far from the beautiful shores of Lake Erie, which, of course, is where Fast Tracks is located, in Port Dover, Ontario, is none other than Big Bobby Fallowfield.
Good evening.
Good evening, Bob. How are you?
How's it going? I'm doing great. Well, I got the Scotch guarded Holstein onesie on. How do you think it's going?
Can only get better, right?
Well, that's one word for it.
So the first question we had tonight before you ever even showed up was, how big is your layout? Bruce Kelly wanted to know how big is your layout.
The layout is 12 by 30 feet.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and is that 12 include on the section that's on the little siding section on the other side of the wall there?
Yeah, the outside dimensions of the wall. The room is a perfect rectangle. It's 12 by 30, and then inside of that is the benchwork. And you're referring to the one aisleway that has my town of Zorra on one side, and then on the other side of the backdrop is my branch line, which has the towns of Beachville and Putnam on it. So yeah, the entire room is 12 by 30, and then the layout exists within that rectangle.
Okay. And we wanted to basically complain about the fact that your layout is so beautiful and it creates too high of a standard for many people to keep up to.
Oh, balderdash! Anybody can do it. You just have to roll up your you just have to roll up your sleeves and be willing to give it a try.
All right, you're right. Balderdash. No, that's not true. You have a beautiful layout.
Isn't Balderdash a local cheese company?
Yeah, I think so. Balderdash Cheese Company.
Oh, Balder's son. Close.
Yeah, Balder's son. Okay, I see a picture of you here. Kingston Sub by Jason Shron. What's happening here?
Oh boy. Jason invited me up to a work day on his layout up in Toronto, northern part of Toronto, Ontario. And yeah, we had a great day. It was a Friday, and we spent the day together, he and I and one of his employees and a friend of mine, Josh Anderchek. And we had a great day. He had me, of course, doing all the jobs that he didn't want to do.
Perfect. And
that's why you have guests in.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I was laying some flex track in what will be, I think, his East End staging yard, which I guess would represent Montreal, Quebec. And the height that I had, I'm 6'2", and I had to stand on his lower level bench work, which was really testing the metal of that lumber, let me tell you. But it was just at such a height that I had to work like the Hunchback of Notre Dame all day. So yeah, I'll be okay. I just need some physical therapy. But other than that, it was a great day of camaraderie and friendship. And it was actually the first time that Jason and I have had time to spend any kind of quality time together and chat and sort of develop our friendship. We've always talked in a group setting,
right.
So it was actually kind of nice to meet him on his turf and see what he's up to. And yeah, I'm happy for him because he's such a busy guy, and he's actually taking the time to build a layout that he's always dreamt of building. So my hat's off to him for digging in. It's aggressive. It's an aggressive project, but I think it'll be gorgeous when he's done.
Yeah, this is Jason Shron, who is the owner of Rapido Trains that we speak of, and Rapido isn't that far from his home. And yes, he has a beautiful layout. I've been there once, and with James Wright, and just outside where the layout room is a replica of a Via passenger car. Yeah,
it's gorgeous. We sat in there for a while and had a bit of a visit and a coffee, and yeah, I really got the impression that I was flying down the Kingston Sub in a CC&F coach. You don't like acronyms, Canadian Car and Foundry. So.
There you go. Thank you very much, because lots of people wouldn't know what that is, and that's we don't want anybody to feel left out. So how long have you known Jason?
I think I've known Jason going on maybe three years now. I'm bad with dates. It might be 5, and I'm going to say 3, but 3 to 5 years.
Okay, and did you meet him because of your association with ESU?
That's exactly how it is. I came to meet him.
Okay, yeah. You and Matt Herman, your buddy Matt Herman.
Yeah, when Matt's up in the area, he usually stays with me, and because he's too cheap to buy a hotel room, and we usually he won't be listening to this. Don't worry. So
I don't think anybody's listening to this.
Well, I owe him one from when you were at the I think it was the Chicagoland RPM last year, and he was giving me a hard time, so I owe him one. So
okay.
Yeah, so he's too cheap to buy a hotel room, so he stays with me, and then he goes and visits hobby shops and his dealers in the area, and so I usually tag along. And on one of our adventures, we stopped in at Rapido, And of course, there's other employees there that I've known for years, but that gave me occasion to meet Jason directly. So he's a high energy guy. Jason's got a lot on the go, but boy, you got to go far and wide to find a guy that's more passionate about railroading and model railroading than Jason Shron. That's for sure.
I would agree with that, although I think Matt Herman could give him a run for his money.
Yeah, that'd make a good cage match.
It would be. Yeah, that is a great idea. The first AML cage match, Jason Shron against Matt Herman.
Yeah, Model Railroad Smackdown.
Yeah, Model Railroad Smackdown. Now that would be good. There's Model Railroad YouTubers always trying to make a dent in the YouTube world. That's what we could have. We could have our own AML wrestling league.
And what you can do, you can host it in the RDC that Jason's restoring.
Yeah.
Well, actually, look. Speaking of the NMRA, it could be an NMRA event. And so instead of it being the MMA, it could be the MMRA.
There you go.
Put master model railroaders in a cage match and let them go at it.
Yeah, you're stretching now. Now you've taken a perfectly good idea and ruined it.
Yeah, I know. Plus the average age, well, never mind. Well, let's move on.
I'm happy to talk about that. We've been interviewing a bunch of people this last couple of weeks, and I think the average age, Bruce, of the people we've been interviewing is like, what, 31?
Yeah, some are 28, 31, somewhere in that range, yeah.
Yeah.
They're the type of age that they've always had some sort of computing device in their house.
Yes. Yeah. Walker Embry and Aaron Maui, who is both those guys who were in their late 20s, 28.
Yeah. No, and unfortunately, we had to crush their dreams by telling them they're way too young to be in the hobby.
Yeah, well, we had to do what we had to do.
Yeah.
How old are you, Papa?
Sorry, Lionel. I'm 42. Okay. I just turned 42 in December. Yeah, this whole average age of the average model railroader being 103 is bunk. I've had many chats with different manufacturers and hobby shop owners, and the thing is a lot of the younger modelers who are active in the hobby, you can call them millennials, you can call them whatever, Generation Xers or whatever it is that they are. But the point is the reason that we don't see them is they're not around to be counted. They shop online. Their modeling supplies gets delivered to their door by courier. They generally don't frequent hobby shops. They generally don't frequent, train shows or flea markets. They generally don't belong to organized groups such as the NMRA or CARM, as the Canadian Association of Railway Modelers is the sort of the Canadian equivalent. They're not likely to belong to those groups. So it's like a shadow group. I mean, they're out there. They're spending real dollars and real hours in the hobby. They have a real passion and flame for the thing, but they're just not around to be counted. And because of that, a lot of folks in the hobby treat them as, being absent. Well, they're not absent at all. They're there, and they're a force to be reckoned with.
That's the thing. I think that's what people don't realize is they're becoming a bigger force to be reckoned with by the minute, because really social media has only been at the forefront for the last 5 years. I realize Facebook's been around longer than that, but it's only been in the last 5 to 6 or 7 years that social media has had such a great impact. And I mean, all these young guys, they don't have to work their way through a group of older fellas. They find each other.
Yeah. Instead of spending $47 for dues, they buy a boxcar.
Yep. Yeah, they're there. And the other thing that's changing as well is I think there's a renaissance. I've been talking to some folks in the hobby in the last few weeks. There's a whole renaissance when it comes to craftsmanship and people actually building things again. And that thrills me. I think people are slowly, through social media, they're learning skills, they're watching YouTube videos, they're trying weathering, they're trying kits, they're trying more advanced kits. They're actually going into their basement and getting something out of a Rubbermaid container that's been in there for 10 years, and they're putting kits together. They're building AccuRail kits, they're building Walthers kits, and I'm happy to see that too. So yeah, there's a whole sort of shadow group in the hobby that's there. We just don't see them by traditional means, and I think that they're starting to build.
Yeah, and what was it that made you tweak that you thought there might be a renaissance?
Well, Okay, good question. I've been talking to.
Whoa! Hold on here. You've been a supporter of the podcast for quite some time.
All your questions are good.
All right.
Yeah, it's just a manner of speaking.
Okay.
It's the Scotch Guard in the Holstein onesie. It's getting to me a little bit here. So
It's off gassing a bit, is it?
yeah. I want to leave the studio by 4 a.m. because that's generally milking time. So I'd like to be out of here and back into my civvies and my street clothes.
Yeah, we'll see if we can shuffle you down to the Arby's by then.
and you probably check out those Chick-fil-A billboards.
Yeah, I was. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say go ahead. So, anyways, back to what was it that tweaked you that you thought there was a renaissance in the hobby?
Couple of things. My own observations from being active in the Facebook groups. There's less and less people posting just box ends and here's what I bought at the train show, and there's seems to be more and more posts of people actually sharing their projects. Here's what I built. Here's what I tried weathering. Here's the layout that I've started. And then also at a couple of recent train shows, I've run into small local manufacturers who have actually had to hire staff. And these are companies that build resin models. And, resin freight cars are not generally a beginner kit.
No.
So when a resin manufacturer has to hire, one or two more full-time staff to keep up with demand, and you're selling a product that is a more intermediate or advanced product, that tells me that there's something moving in the market.
No, that's a really good observation. Yeah, and can you share with us who those resin manufacturers might be?
Sure. Well, it was one resin manufacturer. That was my buddy Claire Gilbert, who owns Sylvan's Scale Models here in Ontario.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's in Park Hill, which is, I think, northwest of London, Ontario, for those who are playing along with Google Maps. Claire's a great guy. Very hard to run into Claire and not have a 3-hour conversation. He's like me. He likes to chat. But Claire's a great guy. He's a great ambassador for the hobby. And his resin vehicle line has just taken off like fireworks.
Yes,
And
it has, hasn't it? In the last 4 years, all of a sudden.
Oh, he's going gangbusters. Yeah, so I ran into him at the Kitchener Waterloo train show here. Kitchener is between London and Toronto along Highway 401, and we were at the show there, and I ran into Claire, and he was saying he's had a banner year. It's crazy, to use his words, in a good way. So I think that's great. I think the hobby is better served with more manufacturers. I think the more people that get in the game and all these little cottage industries that you see at Springfield and some of these other shows, the more the merrier. This is a big pool and there's lots of room for everybody. And to see them all doing well is thrilling, because again, that speaks to that the hobby's thriving.
Yeah, and I think the UK certainly has a lot of the sort of the cottage industry shape, but the fact we're seeing it more and more in North America tells me that people are getting more interested in certain facets of the hobby, and the manufacturers are twigging onto that. And so, you got the groups that are interested in Type A, and then you got guys making Type A stuff and so on. So it's that, to me, it tells me there's a lot more interest in maybe unique things in the hobby and the general overall thing. Then, you could argue that's a sign of, I hate to use the word serious, but I'm not sure of another word about it. But, people are really keen on, getting into the hobby and getting deeper into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe another word. I know what you mean, Bruce. Maybe another word for that is passion or drive.
Yeah, I think that's probably a better word. Serious, and you're not a serious model, or passionate. They're more passionate. I love that. That's better.
Yeah, passionate, driven. I certainly fall into that camp. I don't think I could ever be accused of being casual about the hobby.
No.
After all, I post 1 or 2 pictures every 6 months on Facebook.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, yeah. You can talk about that. You got to up that game a bit there.
Yeah.
I really like.
I'll work on that.
I really like you, Bob. You're the kind of guy, to me, you're the kind of guy that is like describes what to me. Okay, here's the best way I can describe it. This is going to sound really gushy and mushy, so don't take it the wrong way.
Listen, I tried to get a hug off you at Springfield, and you were a little tentative about it, and now we're going to shower love and kisses. Okay.
Yeah.
Fire away.
I think if somebody wanted to, I've been to Prince Edward Island a few times, and I think that Prince Edward Island is what people think Canada is. It's this majestic, beautiful island that, it's just around every corner is something quaint and something interesting. And I think Prince Edward Island is what Canadians or what anybody in the country thinks Canada is. And I would transpose that same kind of analogy to you. Is like you are what people who think passionate model railroaders are. You love the hobby. You love talking about the hobby. You love being involved in the hobby. You love everything about the hobby, and on top of that, you're a good modeler, and you're involved. I think you embody what model railroading is, what you can truly get out of it if you put some effort into it.
And that's exactly right. I was just thinking that it's something that you reap what you sow, and the hobby is the same way. It's one of those things where you can put a nickel in and get $1 out. And well, thank you, Lionel. That's very kind of you. And it's that passion that drives my sharing on Facebook. I've said before in previous chats that we've had that, I've been accused of having a Texas-sized ego. And for those people who know me, I mean, we all have a bit of an ego, but for me, it really isn't ego-based. It's passion-based. And I am just thrilled beyond thrilled when I hear different people say, I weathered something, or, I finally put a kit together, or I've dusted this off and I'm getting back to my layout. I think that's great. And the hobby has been so therapeutic for me over the years. And I've benefited from the people in the hobby and from just the time I've spent in the hobby. I've benefited greatly, immeasurably over the years that I'm happy to be able to give some of that back in some small way. And that's why I share as much as I do. And I hope that if it's infectious in any way, that it rubs off on people and gets them, involved in this hobby that we all know is so wonderful.
Yeah, and I think what I was trying to say is because you're so passionate about the hobby, your observations are very useful is the wrong word, but your observations are very astute because, which is a really big word for me. Your observations are very astute because that's what I've been feeling. I've been feeling that there's this surge of the hobby growing. Like I know people get tired of me saying it, but I just have this, and I've been in the hobby for 50, almost 60 years, and I've never remember a time when the hobby was so alive.
Yeah. Well, it seems every time we get together, it ends up coming around this way. But I guess it's a topic that's near and dear to our hearts. To say the hobby is growing is actually a very flat statement. I mean, it's true that it is. But when we say it's growing, are we saying to folks that we think it's growing in terms of numbers? Like it's if model railroading was a club, are we saying it's growing in that each month we have new membership requests? I think yes, but I also think that it's growing in the sense that it's deepening, or it's thickening, it's maturing, it's metastasizing. There's a big word. I broke the two-syllable rule.
Holy cow!
Yeah, the call an audible on that one.
Yeah,
but it is. It's you know what I'm saying? It's spreading in terms of and growing in terms of new people coming in. But the thing that thrills me is I think it's maturing, it's deepening. People are drawing models and 3D printing them. There's innovation, and there's always new products being developed. Look at the scenery catalog. I mean,
oh yeah,
we all remember a time. The four of us remember a time when Woodland Scenics was the only game in town.
Yeah.
I've scenic'd my entire railroad, and there is probably less than 5% of Woodland Scenics product on my entire layout. Now that's not a slam against Woodland Scenics. I quite like their products, some more than others, But what that is to say is I discovered Scenic Express. And if you've ever seen their booth at Springfield,
Yeah, that's a dangerous place.
oh, it's good for a mortgage payment. And but the point is like we're not we're not in Kansas anymore. We're not in dyed sawdust land anymore.
Yeah.
And there's static grass and there's all this, sagebrush and super trees and on and on and on. And whatever product area you want to look at, freight car development, sound decoders, digital control, track materials, speaking of fast tracks, everything you look at has just grown roots. Yeah. And it's taken off. And so, yes, the hobby's growing in terms of numbers, but it's also deepening and being enriched in the product line as well.
Yeah, and I think another indication of, for lack of, or we'll go your term of deepening of the hobby, is look at the increase in the popularity of the RPM meets. Like
Good point.
They are snowballing in what they're doing. They'll start off with 15, 20 guys, and next thing you know, 4 years later, they got a couple hundred, things like that. And you look at what these guys are cranking out; it's outstanding modeling, and we're seeing more and more of those guys and girls, so women, people.
Yep.
To be politically correct, there's a lot of model railroaders out there.
Yep. And to that's an excellent point, Bruce, and I agree. Let's be honest, the RPM scene is not for everybody. There's the beer chuggers, and I would say there's the beer chuggers and there's the wine sippers or the Scotch. And the RPM crowd is definitely for the sippers. In other words, it's not a sense of the RPM crowd is a better crop of people. It's got nothing to do with better. It's not a hierarchy, but it is to say that it's a different aisle of the grocery store. Yeah. It's a gourmet section, if you will. It's not for the people who are trying to win the trophy for having the most Athearn boxcars in their basement. It's for the guys who want to really hone their skills, that want to share their knowledge, and it's usually for the prototype modeling crowd. Not always. There's some freelance work there as well, but it is growing, and the RPM scene is really exciting, and I wish I could get out to more, because I've heard people say that the RPM crew, like the people who don't know about RPMs, they tend to think that it's a stodgy group or it's a stuffy group, and I can tell you that the 3 or 4 that I have been to, they have been nothing like that at all. You'll find that the guys who participate in RPM groups are amongst the most friendly, knowledgeable, and willing to share crop of model railroaders that I've ever met.
And I think that's basically how it grew. Like, I think you're right. I think a lot of people think they're stodgy, but I've not come across that yet either. They seem to be very, very much wanting to make everybody on the same level of modeling, because there's no contests. It's just come out and show your stuff and be together and enjoy the hobby. That's all it's about. RPM meets are about enjoy the hobby.
That's right.
It's big show and tell, really.
That's it. It's big show and tell.
When you get down, it's a big show and tell. That people are bringing their stuff out, and they're showing it to you, and they'd love to tell you, how they did this, how they did that. And it's not like guys are, well, I can't tell you that. Make it a secret, and you'll find out my supplier, and then what will I do?
Yeah, I've never understood that Masters of the Universe, the caramel secret type, type approach to the hobby. Hey, I really like how you did that fade on that yellow boxcar. How'd you do that? Well, I can't tell you that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. But
if you send me your yellow boxcar and pay me $400, I'll fade it for you. Well, yeah. Okay. Thanks.
And part of that was I was talking to, actually, who was I talking to? Well, I was talking to Ron Marsh, the guy that has the Ron's Trains and Things YouTube channel. He's got like 16,000 subscribers. He's doing very well, and he's only had the channel for 2 years. And he started the channel strictly as a way to meet people. That because he lives 90 miles southeast of Kansas City in a little town, and there were no model railroaders around, and he thought, oh, I'll start a YouTube channel, and maybe people will comment and blah blah blah. And now he's got 17,000 subscribers, and now I can't remember what it was I was going to say. I bet you it was really good too. What were we talking about?
Show and tell and stodgy people.
Yes. So
Ron will be very happy that his name came to mind.
Yeah, exactly. It's stodgy. When you say stodgy, you're thinking Ron all the way.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's like the RPM meets are not about. They're very much they seem to be very much embracing the hobby and embracing the people. That's what it was. I remember now. I remember.
Attaboy.
So I was telling him, like I've been fortunate because I started it with Model Railroader in '94, and I went through the whole process. And when I started, there was a definite class system in the hobby. If you were on the cover of Model Railroader and you'd had the layout in Model Railroader, you were immediately looked upon as winning an Academy Award, and there was a definite class system in the hobby where I called it model railroading royalty because there was very few ways to display your goods to the world other than through Model Railroader or Railroad Model Craftsman, which was a considerably smaller magazine. But then when the internet arrived, people didn't need to rely on that system. So people that had been deemed as the royalty of the hobby now were accessible. And other people were accessible that are just as... Like there's a guy in Denver named John Parker. He has the most spectacular layout I've ever seen in my life. Like just unbelievable. It's a mushroom layout and his basement is finished to absolutely impeccable. Bob, you would just like freak out at this thing. And the Greeley Train Museum in Greeley, Colorado has a beautiful layout. And there's way more. There's a guy in Burnt Sienna. What's it called? What's the place in Arizona called? It's in Cottonwood. What you lived there, Bruce?
It's in it's down the road from Cottonwood. I can't remember the guy's name. Jeez.
Yeah, I know, but what was the
Huge
name of
building.
what's the name of that town that everybody goes? It's the tourist town.
Well, it's Sedona, but he's in Cornville.
I understand that, but I was looking for
Sedona. Yeah,
he's in Cornville, which is just down the road from Sedona. So, and he has this absolutely unbelievable railroad. And there's all kinds of these things around, and we're all being, what you said, the thickening of the hobby, and we're so connected now.
Yeah. If model railroading was a rock concert, it's like the internet's given us all a backstage pass.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's like the one, I think I think model railroading has benefited from social media more than a lot of other things, because we were all in our basements, and now I saw a picture today. There's a picture today of Andy Straightball Dorsch and Peter Borchert, who's an secret agent for MI6. Anyways, Andy lives in Green Bay, Wisconsin. He's on business in England, and he's met Peter Borchert. And these guys met each other through the podcast, but the podcast just facilitated it. They never would have met each other in a million years. And it's all because of social media and what we can do in the new digital age.
Yep.
Man, that's
true.
That was a long soliloquy.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about publishing and Model Railroad publishing the hobby press and how there was definitely a narrow gate for sure. And if you didn't have your article or your trackside photo or your modeling tip published in one of the magazines, we really didn't know who you were. Yeah. And like you say, the internet has totally changed that game, and not only in the hobby, but even look at music. How many recording artists are multi-platinum selling artists because they had a YouTube video?
Yeah, exactly.
And somebody saw it and it took off. And the hobby's very much the same way. You don't have to be. I don't want to disparage the magazines. I quite enjoy the magazines, but the point is it's not the only fishing expert.
Yeah, there's a new game in town.
Oh, and the other thing about the social media is that besides model railroading, there's a whole world of other modeling out there that we can learn from. Look at some of these groups that dealing with weathering in the
Military.
the military guys using all the ammo by MiG stuff and all the information that's out there. Like you can go and find out tons of information on how these guys using, pin dots and fading and all this stuff, and incredible work they're doing, and we can all learn from that.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of cross-pollination that can happen between the different disciplines. The aircraft guys, the military guys, the model railroad guys. Yeah. It's funny, you see, I was talking to somebody about this a little while ago. You ever see mediocrity in the military modeling? It's like everything those guys do turns to gold.
That's a good point.
Yeah, have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Everything they do is spectacular. But I also attribute part of that to what they're doing is their latest project is much smaller than our projects. Like even if you're only building a 10-foot by 2-foot shelf layout, it's considerably bigger than a 1x1 diorama that you might be working on.
Yeah,
So,
but then again, they'll build 4 or 5 of those in the time you do yours. So
well, okay, so
it's all in steps, right?
I'm doing the best I can. Okay, Bruce.
Okay, no. but we can run trains on ours. They just sit there and gather dust.
There you go. So there you go. Okay.
There are military guys, the military modeling guys, who will spend a year plus building one tank model.
Oh yeah.
And it certainly looks like it when they're done.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's part of it too. Okay, so you said Facebook. You're on Facebook. What are your favorite Facebook groups?
The two I post in are probably my favorite ones because that's where I tend to hang out. Canadian Railway Modelers is probably my favorite group. That's because I'm modeling a Canadian prototype, and I think I've said before on the show that not all of the members of that group are Canadian. They just happen to be modeling a Canadian prototype, or they have an interest in Canadian modeling.
Right.
So that's what really whets my appetite, is that group. But I peruse the internet. I farm around. The HO group is good. Trying to think where else I hang out. It's funny. When it comes to Facebook, I treat Facebook more. My Facebook posts are more like frisbees than boomerangs. And what I mean by that is when I post a picture, I don't really hang around and wait for a response or the comments or the likes. I don't get tied up in that game. I just treat it like a frisbee. So I log on, I have a quick look around, I post my stuff, and it's like a frisbee. It's a one-way thing. I just post it, it's gone, and then I might come back a little later and see if anybody's asked a question, because I like to be respectful and answer questions that somebody might have.
Yeah.
And then I tell them it's the caramel secret, and I can't tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this picture you posted. Canadian Railway Modelers has 8,311 members, so it's a pretty prosperous group. And I like this picture you posted on March 23rd. It is black and white.
What's happening in the photo? Just to remind me.
Well, there's trains in it with tracks and stuff in the background.
That one.
Yeah, it's YA number 74 slogs through Zorra on a dismal day in the fall of 1980.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it's got the 3 big Elcos going by my cement plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
And you took that, and we should talk about, you took this photo with your camera, or your phone?
I did. I just recently got a new iPhone.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I had a 6 forever, and then I got this wonderful, through my business, I got my cell provider through my business plan. They offered me a free upgrade, and so now I have an iPhone XR, which I think is the latest one. I'm not sure.
Right.
I'm not a big techie with phones. To me, it's a tool, right? I mean, it's a thing I can make calls on. But the camera is amazing, and it's really stepped up from my iPhone 6 for sure. I don't know what they did to it, but whatever's in there, it's got a little extra get up and go in the camera.
Yeah. I like this photo is spectacular. I mean, that's just a usable photo, period. And I mean, that could be in a magazine. That's just a great photo. Just a beautiful photo.
People would be surprised, I think, to find out how little time I I mean this in the most humble sense possible. And what I'm driving at here is how good the technology is. This has nothing to do with my abilities. This is a testament to the tools, like the camera that's in the phone. I spend so little time on my photos. I don't, there's no lighting that comes out like the old days. I don't spend a lot of time trying to stage things. I simply, when I'm running trains, they happen very organically. I'm working on the layout. I'm running trains like the picture you're mentioning, the black and white one. And I was running that train and it was coming through Zorra. And I thought, I like that. So I stopped the train. I backed it up a couple of feet and I took my phone off the belt clip, set it on the layout and zoomed in and hit the focus and so on, touch the screen to bring it into focus. And I snapped it. And then I went into edit, made it black and white, just using the editing tools on iPhone. And I literally spent less than 30 seconds making that photograph.
Yeah.
And that's not a statement of my abilities. That's just how easy it is to take a picture now with the tools we have. 30 years ago, different story.
Oh, yeah. How often do I say on here? It's like when I was using film. You had a roll of 36 and you'd be lucky to get 4 shots out of it. I mean, everything is so different now. It's like, it's scary how different it is. And that's what I think is going to make the hobby grow. Because they were always, ever since there's been personal computers, there's been hand-wringing by the NMRA that, oh my God, personal computers are going to wipe model railroading off the face of the planet. And I think those people couldn't have been any more wrong if they tried. I think personal computers have made the hobby just explode because people are connected all the time. I mean, I have more friends now in the hobby than I've ever had in my whole life. So what's the story here on these brass covered hoppers?
Oh, the tank hoppers. They it's been a bit of a running joke between my friends and I. So that I'm modeling Woodstock, Ontario, my hometown, along the Galt, CP Rail Galt and 87 railway miles west of Toronto. And when I was growing up, the CP yard in Woodstock in the 80s was always full of these tank hoppers. They were built in mid 60s, 65, 66. And they were basically used for cement and lime around the Woodstock area. There was 3 cement plants in the area and a major lime operation in a place called Beachville, which is 4 miles out of town. And so Woodstock Yard was the hub of all these branch lines that served these different industries. So these tank hoppers, which were built by National Steel Car in Hamilton, they were all over the place. But you can't find a decent model of a tank hopper in HO unless you go to resin or you go to brass. And I'm not opposed to building resin, but I haven't had great success with the resin kits in the past of these particular models. So I've been looking for some brass ones.
Right.
So a pair of them came available in a collection sale, in a secondhand sale from a major collection. So I adopted them and painted them, and
yeah, you've done a great job with them.
Got them decorated. Yeah. So probably my favorite freight car is the NSC tank hopper.
Were you sweating? Like brass seems like, man, painting brass. And is this your first attempt at doing brass, or have you got other brass stuff on the layout?
I have other brass stuff on the layout, and I've painted other brass models, a couple of locomotives, a couple of overland MLWs. Believe it or not, Lionel, I took these home and washed them with dish soap and warm water, just to get the oils and things off of. I don't know if people have been handling them. My understanding was they hadn't been out of the box, but somebody had to handle them even during packaging.
Right.
So I washed them off with dish soap and warm water. I let them air dry, and I painted them with hardware store spray paint.
Wow.
Yeah. Good old rattle can. I believe it was Rust-Oleum black. Yeah, and I used Rust-Oleum primer. So the first thing I did when they were dry was I sprayed them with a gray Rust-Oleum primer right from the hardware store. And after the primer dried overnight, I came back and hit them with a coat of black, Rust-Oleum black. I'm getting away from my airbrush. I'm using rattle cans from the hardware store more and more.
Really?
Yeah, the nozzles are a lot better now. They have more control. And I've been painting for, it's something you get a feel for, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
anything you do, playing a guitar or whatever. The more you do it, you get a feel for it. So I have a pretty good feel for nozzles and direction of spray and so on and so forth. So it's a pretty easy paint job too. I mean, there's zero masking.
Yeah.
It's
Do
what
you,
we
do
call
you,
it's what we call a dip job. Sorry, Bruce, go ahead.
yeah, do you find differences in different manufacturers of spray cans based on how much you pay for them, as far as nozzles and stuff?
Not really. Not so much in the paint. I certainly do in flat finish. I've recently stopped using Tester's dull coat, and I've now gone to the Tamiya flat clear. Have you ever used that?
No, I've never used that. No.
Okay. Well, I was using Tester's dull coat out of the rattle can, and was getting pretty good results. But the nozzle would really sort of gum up, and sometimes it would spit, and you'd
Spit.
get
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, I hate
Yeah.
that spitting. And so I've recently switched over to Tamiya flat clear. It's marginally more money, but whatever. Um, and the nozzle is way better on the Tamiya can. It's just a better. I mean, I think the product inside the can is better, but the actual nozzle and packaging, it's so smooth. You can feather it more. It doesn't spit. It doesn't gum up like the Testers can. But getting back to your question about the hardware store paint, no, not really. I think that you have to keep them clean.
Yeah.
Sort of wipe the dried paint away from the nozzle when you're done. Of course, shake them good, keep them at warm at room temperature. But yeah, I'm really starting to really come on to this new crop of rattle cans. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm getting ready to ditch my airbrush. Heavens no, there's a time and a place for it. But there's also a time where a good old $5 rattle can of spray paint will do you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you gotta be pretty careful. You gotta feel fairly confident, I think, to paint with that. I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely not for a first timer.
Yeah, but once you got some, and I mean, you could certainly you don't have to start on overland brass covered hoppers. You could start on an old blue box kit if you wanted.
Sure. Yep. And at first I was a little apprehensive about painting plastic, like a styrene model with this paint, because I wasn't sure if it would attack the plastic or weird things would happen. And again, you don't want to try that on something that's near and dear to your heart.
Right.
But no, a lot of the new crop of Rust-Oleum and Krylon paints, they are plastic safe. They'll stick to anything. This paint is great.
Yeah.
I'm becoming a big fan.
All right. I see you bought some exact rail cars, did you?
I've got several exact rail cars. Is this the yellow bulkhead flat?
Yeah. Milwaukee Road?
Yeah, I got that recently.
And did you buy it online, or did you buy it at a show or something? Or?
That's funny. I know you're going to decide if it's funny or not. I know how this works. Went to the Kitchener train show that I talked to earlier, where I ran into Claire Gilbert, and I just went to hang out with a couple of friends of mine who were selling some of their stuff at this show, and one of my friends brought it to sell, and I just gave him the money and brought it home. So he lives 10 minutes away from me here in Niagara, so we had to go to a show in Kitchener for me to buy this car off you and take it back home. Turns out he's had it for years. I think Exact Rail released that car in like 2011 or 2012 or something. And no, it was later than that. Might have been 2015. But anyway, he's had it for years, and I think he bought it at Springfield. And it's funny how these models get passed around,
Yeah, it's like beer at the ball game. You're only renting it.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say about those brass models is it's amazing to me how many brass models spend their entire life in a sarcophagus of foam and cardboard.
Yeah.
And they never see the light of day for whatever reason. And I find that to be a real shame. So I've kind of become known as the brass whisperer around these parts. I'm I'm like the guy who likes to rescue this stuff, and usually get it for a very aggressive price, especially in estates and so on. So yeah, I was happier than a pig in mud to come home with a pair of those tank hoppers. There was only 50 made.
Really?
Yeah, there's two roof styles. So the ones that you're referring to are they have an 8-hatch roof. It's a 3,400 cubic foot car, and so Overland made around 50 of the 8-hatch car, and then they made around 50 of the 4-hatch car, and they came out around 1990. So I'm told the gentleman that had these cars had never had them out of the box. They were wrapped in plastic with the original sticker on them. Usually when you buy a brass model, it's wrapped up in plastic and it'll have a sticker on it. And I figure that those things have been in the box for almost 30 years.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Living in a sarcophagus of foam and cardboard with no paint. And for me to be able to get them out, I put Rapido trucks on them. Usually the weak point in brass models is the trucks, like when you're dealing with cabooses or freight cars.
Yeah.
The trucks aren't great. They're usually short and they ride rough, and the springs are goofy looking. So in 2019, we have lots of good truck options. So I put Rapido 100-ton roller bearings on them, painted them with hardware store rattle can, put some decals on them or decals if you're in the United States, and weathered them up. And now they're going to see daily service on the layout. So yeah, it just amazes me how many of these beautiful brass models never see the light of day.
Well, and there's guys in Ocala, Florida that the brasstrains.com. This is how they're making their living. It's just, and I mean, these guys are making a killing buying brass trains from estate sales and refurbishing them and then selling them.
Yep.
I mean, it's a going concern, this company.
Yeah, I check their website probably once every other week looking for. See, for me, the thing with brass isn't, the ooh-ah, it's brass, like it's some sort of, it's like, it used to be that having brass models was like having a pager, in 1987.
Right.
You used to have the pager on, it was a thing, right? Well, I think my beeper went off. I need to go make a phone call. For me, brass is just a substrate that the model's made out of. It's not special because it's made of brass. The thing that appeals to me about brass models is being a Canadian modeler. A lot of models are only available in that material. So if they were made en masse in plastic, I'd be happy to own them. So for me, it's not any sort of a status thing. It's just I'm modeling a prototype, and if I want those models and they're only available in brass, I have to go hunting for brass or I have to scratch build it.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a great honor. Just stepping into the studio now is none other than our very own Mike, the Spoon Ostertag.
Spoon.
Hi guys, I was just trying to figure out where that smell was coming from, and I saw the door. Was open, and I just kind of poked my head in. Sorry.
Mike, have you ever met Mr. Bob Fallowfield?
I have not had the pleasure. No, I have not.
How you doing, Mike?
Hi, nice to meet you.
I don't normally hang out in a Holstein cow onesie. That's just for tonight.
That is actual overdressing for this show, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, it is getting warm in here, and it does have a zipper. So,
Bob, for if you didn't know, Mike is as a CN Canadian National Locomotive Engineer working out of Manitowoc, Wisconsin, and
excellent.
He lives in Green Bay, Wisconsin, which of course is the home of Lambeau Field, the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field. So yeah, Mike, if you want to jump into the conversation, feel free. Bob lives in St. Catharines, has a beautiful layout. If you want to see his layout, go on Facebook and look at Bob Fallowfield Galt Sub, and everything you need to know will be right there.
That's the CP layout.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard of this layout before.
Well, everybody's heard of Bob Fallowfield.
Yeah.
Everybody knows Bob Fallowfield.
You can always tell a picture because it's got that nice sort of hazy look to it. It's the Fallowfield.
Yeah,
Effect?
we can't pass by on that. There's actually
Ah.
it wasn't that long ago, 3 years ago, that the people started coining the phrase the Fallowfield Effect.
Yeah, that was coined by my buddy Eric Gagnon, who lives in Kingston, Ontario. He's a regular on the Canadian Railway Modelers group, and Eric likes to turn a phrase and comes up with these memes and these different taglines. So yeah, he came up with this Fallowfield Effect thing, which I of course thought was hilarious because I wasn't after any kind of I didn't think it would become a thing. You know, it was just me taking my iPhone out because it was the only camera I had at the time. I was just doing it. I was just, hey, I need to take a picture because I want to contribute to this Facebook group. And all I had on my hip was an iPhone at the time. So I took it out, stuck it down at track level, framed it up, and started submitting these photos. And next thing I know, that it's a thing, this Fallowfield Effect. And I'm thinking, surely to heavens, I'm not the first guy to do this.
Well, you could be. Well, you're the first guy to do the Fallowfield Effect, which is aptly named after Bob Fallowfield.
I don't even really know what the effect is. I mean, is it the Fallowfield? Is it the Fallowfield Effect because it's a trackside photo? I mean, what is it that makes it a Fallowfield Effect?
I think it's the coloration and the it's not. I'm not saying it's not crisp and clear, but it's got that. I don't know. It's sort of, it's like taking a black and white picture, but doing it in color, and it just has that certain. The colors come out so that when you see it posted, you know it immediately. It's one of your photos. And no, I don't think anybody's gotten close to doing that. And it might be the lighting in your room.
That's probably what it is, because I guarantee you, if it took any kind of thought or effort, it wasn't my idea.
Okay, well, let's look at this. Let's look at this picture on March the 2nd, and there's a lineup of Alcos. There's three. Looks like there's three sets of locomotives facing towards the camera. One's coming in on a curve. And March the 2nd. If you have a laptop, Bob, you can play along at home. You go to Bob Fallowfield's Galt sub Facebook page.
Okay,
see if you can find that. and scroll to March the 2nd.
Okay.
And this one has no title, which throws me off a little bit because most of your photos have a title. Okay, this is the Power Shuffle. It's been a few months since I last jumbled my power contest with a steady snow cascading out the window. And listen to this. Not only he's a wordsmith. A steady snow cascading out the window and a pint or two of coffee to consume. Today is the day. Leaders will become trailers. East will now head west, and nose to tail orientation will be swapped. Look at that. You are a wordsmith.
Okay, I'm here.
Right.
I'm here. Yep, so, I got it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's a lot of what the people talk about the Fallowfield Effect. It's just that kind of, I don't know. It's just you take good photos. Is that with your new camera? That one?
No, that was the old phone. I've only had the new phone since maybe 2 weeks now.
Okay. Was I the first contact you put in it?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I have incandescent lighting in my train room. I do not like fluorescent lighting. I don't like it to sit under it in an office environment. I don't like it in my home, and I do not like it over a model railroad. It's just more to do with me. If the ballasts are bad and it flickers at all, I get a headache. Yeah. So it's not a knock on fluorescent lighting. It's just it's not cool with me. It doesn't sit well with me, and it's not pleasant to my eye, and it can give me headaches if there's anything wrong at all with the ballast. So when I designed my layout room back in 2010, I put halogen track lighting in.
Okay.
Yeah. So, which I probably won't do again. Lighting technology has marched forward big time in 8.5 years, and probably do some sort of LED strip or something. The downside with the track lighting is I have hot and cold spots in my lighting, so I really there's really warm areas where the track lighting is, but in between fixtures you get cold spots, and that can be a challenge when you're trying to do a shot that includes the sky or something like that. So it should be an even sort of an even sky tone, and you'll get a warm and a cool. But I can usually use other fixtures in the room and point them to take care of the cool spot. Yeah, so it's a challenge for photography, but I think that the incandescent lighting throws more realistic shadow
Yeah. Yeah.
than the color balance and the sheet, sort of the tubular lighting of fluorescence.
Yeah.
So
There's a picture not far from here where you're strangling Jason Shron. That's a bit awkward.
Yeah.
we had a difference of opinion.
Yeah, apparently so.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's a good sport.
yeah.
He's okay.
So you said if you did your lighting again, so I'm hinting, I'm sensing a hint of there may be a layout change.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much longer we're going to be in this home. The repo guy's been here 3 times, and no, no, it's time to move to a different dwelling, and there's been some talk of a new build, and not a Taj Mahal, not for anything big and fancy. I'm a small house kind of guy, but sometimes your family life just gets to that point where you need to move on, and you need a little more space, and your needs and wants change. So yeah, there will be, probably in the not too distant future, a for sale sign and a new build. So we don't have an exact date on that, but I can assure you that it's going to be sooner than later. So this current layout is probably on borrowed time somewhat.
I need to get down there for a quick visit then, so I can get another see it again, because I'd hate to miss out on seeing it in person at least once more.
Yeah, it's nothing that's going to happen hastily. I mean, it's not going to happen tomorrow or next week.
Right.
But it's always next week on the AML.
Exactly.
But no, it's I'm a very methodical person, so it's not something where I would just put a dumpster in the driveway, get a Sawzall out and start hacking it out. There would have to be a solid plan in place for the move and the build and so on for that to happen. But I'm actually excited at the prospect of building a new layout, because this is my first serious build. The only layout I've ever had before I started this one was my childhood layout that I built in my mom and dad's basement in Woodstock. So I've made a lot of mistakes on this layout, and the idea of building a sophomore layout, a second layout, is exciting to me, because it would give me an opportunity to correct some of those ills, and lighting is one of them.
Right, and I had a good. Oh yeah, so you say there's a lot of mistakes. Would you care to? Lighting is one of them. Is there anything else that you're looking forward to changing?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm happy to discuss my mistakes. How much time do you have? No, I'm happy with the track plan. There's a couple of things that bother me. I can go through them, and as slowly or quickly as you like.
Yeah.
So we'll start. We'll start with the lighting. I do like incandescent lighting. I like the halogen track lighting, but as I said, from a photography standpoint, I've been known to take the odd photo or two of the thing. You do get those hot and cold spots, so I would like to attack that on a next build. The other thing I did was I put my staging yard. There's a 20 track staging yard buried under this layout.
Right.
And that's what holds the trains that fuel the Galt sub through a 24-hour operating session, fast time 24 hours.
Right.
So I'm not a fan of the helix. I'm a little countercultural in this regard, and I realize I'll probably be in a camp of one, but I am just not a fan of the helix. I realize they're a necessary evil, but they're a time waster and a space eater. You can go make a sandwich while your train's in the average helix.
All right.
And so anyway, because I don't like a helix, I built a long, steady ramp from the staging level up to the scenic deck, and that's a good solid 3%. I won't do that again, because it requires me to put at least 3 powered units on each train, and there's issues with curvature and grade, and you have to be careful of string lining, and I just would never put a staging yard under the scenic deck ever again. It would be in an adjacent room on the same level.
Okay.
So there's the staging issue, there's the lighting issue. The other thing is curvature and angle of backdrop when using photos on your backdrop. So when we spoke at Springfield, I intimated that I have photo backdrops to do, and that the photography is done. I just have to get them sized and manipulated in Photoshop so that I can actually apply them. And there are areas where I didn't think about this when I was building the layout and the backdrop. See, if a photo backdrop is going to work properly, think of a road. Just think of a simple county road going across a railroad track and continuing in a photo into your backdrop.
Right.
It works best if the backdrop is perpendicular to the road. So in other words, the road is going to hit the backdrop at 90 degrees. It's perpendicular.
Right. Okay.
Well, I have a couple of places on the railroad where the backdrop is at a funky angle to the road that's supposed to continue on into the photo. And so how do you do that with a photograph convincingly?
Yeah.
The angle just makes it really weird. So the road is like at a 45 or a 60 degree angle from the fascia to the backdrop. And then how do you get that road on that funky angle to continue convincingly in a photo? It's tough. So I wouldn't do that. I would make sure that all of the backdrops were perpendicular or parallel with the fascia, I guess a better way to put it. Backdrop and fascia would be parallel with one another, which would make photo backdrop work a lot easier. And the last thing I would probably change would be, I like a high layout.
Yeah.
My rail is 58 inches off the floor. So from carpet to railhead is 58 inches. I'm 6'2", so that puts the scenic deck at my upper chest. And to me, that is ideal because I do not like to helicopter over my trains. I like to look into the scenes.
Right.
And so because I like a high layout, I would make some of my scenes are a little too wide for that height.
Yeah.
And so for uncoupling cars near the back of those scenes, I have to use step stools. So in the future, I will never give up my layout height. I will never build a 48-inch off the floor layout. That doesn't work for me.
Right.
But what I would do is I would either narrow the bench work on a future layout, or I would build a section of raised floor, like not raised floor because that would essentially it'd become a 48-inch layout off the floor.
Yeah.
But what I mean to say is I would sort of build a permanent bench or a step.
Yeah.
Sort of in front of it, so you're not dragging portable, Rubbermaid step stools out from under the layout when you want to uncouple.
Yeah.
So it's just things like that. I mean, other things I'm happy with. I hand laid my track. I will continue to hand lay. I'll never use flex track again as long as my eyesight and my agility hold out. I'm happy with my Digitrax DCC system. I'm of the adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
I know Digitrax. I know it inside and out. I've been using it for 20 years. So I don't know that I would change that. It's just another kick at the can. There's just things I would do differently,
Yeah. And when did you start this current layout?
Friday, November 19th, 2010.
Wow. So 18 years. So 8 years. And you've accomplished all of this. You must be a tireless worker.
I don't watch TV. Yeah. So I have 24-hour days and 7-day weeks, just like anybody else. But I am not a TV watcher. I'm not given to TV. I enjoy a good movie. I enjoy a good documentary. But no, there's no grass grows under these feet. I own a business. It keeps me busy. But my evenings are pretty much spending time with my daughter and helping her with homework and things of that nature.
Right.
And then I'm down in the basement. In fact, 5 minutes before we started our chat tonight, I was putting weathering powders on a model. And I'll go back to it when we're done.
Right. Yeah. And you just do you, any secrets to getting things done, or you just are just one of those guys that gets it done?
Well, I think I'm one of those guys that gets it done. I mean, I am goal-oriented that way. I'm not getting any younger, and if I want these things done, I need to pitter-patter and get at her.
Right.
But I'm a big fan of the 15 minutes a day.
Right.
And I get so tired of people saying, "Well, I'm gonna build that layout when I get time," or "One of these days I'm gonna start something when I get time." Well, you're gonna be 85 years old, and you're still gonna be looking for that time. And if you do have the time, you may not have the health to be
Yeah.
able to do it. So model railroading does not have to be enjoyed in 12-hour swaths of time. You can spend 15 or 20 minutes doing something, and when you put 10,000 of those 15-minute segments together, you've got yourself a railroad.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
That's a great way to say it.
Yeah. The other thing is I'm not a snow tire modeler, and what I mean by that is there's guys who only model railroad during snow tire season,
Right.
and then they switch to golf or they switch to something else, and that's fine. That's cool. Everybody participates, however they wish. But I don't have a divided focus. I have one hobby, and my hobby is model railroading, and it's a 12-month effort. So when you ask how it is I get a layout built, well, when other people are out on the golf course for 4 or 5 months, I'm still attacking the railroad. Mm-hmm. So you put all that together with a laser focus. And I'm pretty specific with what I'm modeling. I get a hard time of it from my friends because I'm very specific and anal about build dates on box cars, and I'm modeling October of 1980. And if the car was built in December of 1980, it's not on the railroad. So when you have a laser focus, you don't watch TV, it's a 12-month effort, and you're fueled by passion that I don't think is quite normal. But when I've got some serious problems, but when you but it's not that kind of show.
Yeah.
When you put all of those things together, it results in getting stuff done.
Okay, here's a really obscure question. This is a totally obscure question, because I was very offended when you say, guys that golf, they don't do it in the summer. I'm just kidding, but that's what I did. I golfed in the summer, and I liked it because I walked and it got me outside. What do you do for exercise and your health? Because model railroading doesn't lend itself to a particularly healthy lifestyle.
No, that's true, because you're sitting. It's very sedentary, right? You're sitting at a workbench or you're standing. I belong to the YMCA here in town, and I'm a 4 or 5 times a week guy.
Okay, good.
Actually, I was there today. I stopped in after work and did an hour of cardio and some weights, had a shower, and came home and got on with my day.
Okay, so it is something you pay attention to then.
Oh, absolutely. People that have seen different photos of me on the internet have probably seen me in different weight categories. I've gained weight and lost weight over the years, but when I turned 40 2 years ago, it occurred to me that it's time to really get serious about my health.
Right.
And it's not something I really talk about too much, but I just quietly made some changes in my diet and started incorporating the exercise component to it. And I've started to pay attention to my health. And it might seem silly, for people listening to this to hear this, but when people talk about getting healthy and taking a healthy lifestyle and taking care of their health, they always mention, I want to be around for my kids and I want to bounce my grandkids on my knee. And that's all true. I'm looking forward to all of those things. But I'd be lying if I said that I don't think about me wanting longevity and health so that I can continue in the hobby as long as possible. I'd be lying if I didn't admit to that. I want to be able to, the dexterity will go. The eyesight's already starting to go a little bit. I'm going to have reading glasses soon.
Sure.
Some of those smaller decals for the data and the car capacities and things are starting to get a bit of a blur that wasn't there before. 42 is not 22.
Yeah.
But I'm 42 years old, and I'm hoping that I have, a good 25 years left of modeling ability left. And the other thing, while we're talking about age and health, this is the other thing. People need to get off the obsession in this hobby with building massive railroads. There's nothing.
Amen.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. This isn't, one of these things where this is good and that's bad. But there's so much focus in this hobby on size. And I'm not picking on you, Bruce Kelly, but the very first question I was asked tonight was, how big's my layout?
Well, I'll tell you the reason why I asked that question, because it like you're probably going to say is that you get more out of the hobby if you can build it and get it up and running and scenic than everything else.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm not dumping on you for asking. I'm happy to answer the
No.
question. But
No,
my point is
it sounded
my,
like
my,
you were. It sounded like you were dumping on him. I was
no,
kind of.
no,
I was kind of offended for him.
Well,
no, not at all.
if you weren't, Bob, if you weren't dumping on them, we will later.
Yeah, they will. They definitely will.
No, but it was just a current example that came to mind that we have such a focus in this hobby. Usually when we meet another model railroader, the first question is do you have a layout? And the second or third question is either what are you modeling? And then no further in than the third question is how big's your layout?
Yeah.
And my answer is who cares?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I know people that have 2,000 square foot basements full of plywood and bench work, and God love them, but it'll never get beyond that because it's a 7-headed monster. It's Trackmageddon, and the thing will never, ever, ever see a tree or a granular of ballast because we've got to build, every we got to build every mile of a line from A to B across the continent, and it's just not achievable. And so if you have the ability and the means and the help and the resources to build a massive layout, good for you. God bless you. I wish you all the best. But we've got to let people know. I mean, you've mentioned Bill Dewar before, Lionel, when we've talked. Bill had that shelf layout.
Oh yeah, I love that.
That used to like. And the thing is we have to tell people to start building something. Don't worry about building the massive dream layout. Just build something. Build a shelf layout, build a Fremo module. Just build something achievable, because I would rather build something than dream about, the thing that's never going to be.
Right.
So just talking about our health and longevity and getting older, people need to think about that.
Well, how about? Oh, somebody was going to say something.
No, I was gonna mention something, but
well, go.
Oh, okay. With I model an S scale, which is insane as it is.
Oh my God!
No.
Come on! We barely. The guy shows up, and it's like the third word out of his mouth is "I model an S scale."
Hey, listen, it's relevant to the conversation.
Okay.
All right, I model an S scale, which is insane enough, but I'm also modeling S scale in a 1-foot shelf layout. That's it. That's all the more I want. I don't want a sprawling, like you said. We have, other people who have been on here. Luke Lemons. His layout is a monster unto itself. You need a small army of people in order to operate it. And the problem that these guys with these big layouts always have is there does get to be a quality of operator issue sometimes. All the people are really super people, but they don't always know how to actually function during an operating session the way the host would like them to do it, and sometimes it makes the session not quite as fun. Whereas the smaller layouts, you can throw 2 or 3 sessions on it and have somebody different do it every time, and have all sorts of activities going on. I'm a very firm believer in the less is more theory.
Amen.
Amen. So that's I'm off my soapbox now.
Yeah, I can tell you from my own experience with a club, which is a large layout, when you have a large layout, everything gets magnified. The amount of work you have to do to maintain it, the amount of scenery you have to do, and then if there's something wrong with the layout, diagnosing it and finding out where the problems are can be a real issue. Mm-hmm. So having it small is, it's similar to what Joe Fugate's doing with that Toma, the small, build a module and then make it complete so you can operate it and then go to the next one and the next one. I mean,
a club layout is a little bit of a different animal because it is a group effort. And so, there are more resources. There's pooled finances. There's pooled talent. There's pooled man hours. So I totally get that. And again, this isn't a rip on people building personal big layouts. No. My only point in mentioning the big layout thing, and Mike, by the way, that S scale, S stands for scratch build, eh?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I've learned that very, very well. And I've actually embraced it because I think it's made me a better modeler. And when Lionel first asked me the question when I first got interviewed on this on the AML network. He asked me why I went to S skill from HO skill, and I said I was tired of taking stuff out of a box.
Yep.
Everything is always done for you in HO skill. The skill of becoming a modeler is diminishing. Everything is being done by the manufacturers. You're finding less and less detail parts companies. You're finding less and less things that are geared towards people that actually want to model. Weathering is being done for you. I mean, there's less and less modeling being done in HO skill. That's not to say there aren't people out there modeling, because it's all one thing. It's all in a perspective. But I wanted to hone my skills to become a better modeler. And that's why I went to S, because
S stands for scratch build.
And I'm insane. I mean, yeah. I'm crazy, but I mean, everybody has their own thing, and there's some amazing stuff being done nowadays. I mean, Lionel keeps saying it all the time. The hobby is exploding, and it's going to explode. And we haven't even touched the surface of what's going on yet. So.
Well, and how about this, Bob? This is a conversation I had with Shane the Young Gun not too long ago. Might have been on his Shane show. And we were talking, and he was talking about building a shelf layout in his apartment. Him and his girlfriend had got an apartment. And the difference now, I think shelf layouts could very well fulfill quite a need for anybody, because the difference now is you can get, your locomotives can do so much. And the quality of the cars is so much. You could build a museum quality 2-foot by 10-foot layout without a whole lot of trouble, and have these really cool locomotives that do all sorts of things. And the aside to that is, the problem before was you'd build a 2-foot by 10-foot layout. Those aren't necessarily, they don't lend themselves to group operation. So you're not going to have a half a dozen guys over to operate the layout, because it's not big enough. It's usually lends itself to a single man operation. But now, with all the Facebooks and the groups and the social media and the connection, you can work on your layout. You can do something to one of your cars or your locomotives, and then turn on your social media and show it to your buddies and say, "Hey, look what I did on my layout. Look what I did on my layout." And now you have the opportunity to show this 2-foot by 10-foot layout to all sorts of people.
Sure.
Mm.
Well, the other thing too is, sometimes when we talk about layouts and what we're modeling, we always make it sound like this is the only layout that you'll ever have in your entire life. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's nothing wrong with building a shelf, because people's situations change. I mean, you referenced Shane and his girlfriend having an apartment and him having room for a shelf layout. Well, that's now. Who's to say in 5 or 6 years there isn't a house?
Yeah,
there isn't a whole spare room, or in his part of the land near Kansas City there. If there's basements and homes there, if he has room in a basement or a whole basement, or again we're into the how big is it thing. But the point is build something, and build it now. Start honing your skills. Start making those mistakes now. There are so many people that are waiting to pull the trigger on building something for this glorious day when the clouds are going to part and the rays of sunshine are going to come down from heaven and a host of angels are going to sing. And it's going to be this magical day when everything comes together. It's some wonderful tomorrow. And the point is life is passing you by. And tomorrow is not promised. Today is a gift. Seize it, make the most of it, take care of your health, take care of your resources, and enjoy your hobby. Enjoy the therapy of it. I don't understand how people can buy stuff for 30, 40, 50 years and take it home and put it on a shelf or put it in a box, and that's it. I mean, if that is the sum total of the hobby for you, that's fine. It's not up to me to tell you how to play trains. But buying stuff and taking it home, I mean, you are robbing yourself of the fun and the potential that this hobby can offer if you would only expand your horizons and actually build something. Can I get an amen, Brother Mike?
Amen, Brother Mike.
Amen. And you're right. That's exactly what you're talking about. Is And I think a lot of that goes back to the old thing of people are afraid to try to do something, and there's a lot you can do with a little. Oh, Bruce, did you make a sandwich for everybody, or did you?
Oh, fuck.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Top shelf with the peanut butter.
Reminder Lear, get his wings.
Yep. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Oh, geez,
like
what an ordeal.
Bob, I want to, on behalf
Sorry,
of
I apologize for my frustration.
Bob, on behalf of the AML network, I want to apologize for any language that you may have found offensive.
Whew.
All right, one last question, and this is going to turn into an episode because it's long enough to be an episode. You got to be on here more, Bob, because you have good thoughts.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's a we're building a community, and I'm trying to figure out more ways to make this more encompassing for people, because a lot of people enjoy it. A lot of people enjoy posting on the page, so we got to work on making it more encompassing for people. But the last question, we cannot let you go on this particular episode of the Bob Fallowfield Show. What's happening at ESU?
What's happening at ESU? Well, what's happening at ESU? They're moving. They're growing.
Okay.
Yeah, we spoke briefly at Springfield. Yeah, so speaking of the hobby growing and manufacturers growing, I know that Matt has hired a couple of new staff members full time, and I think he's looking at another one. Their growth is unbelievable. They've got a good corner of the OEM, original equipment manufacturer, to dispel the acronyms.
No acronyms.
Yeah, the OEMs, which is the manufacturers, original equipment manufacturers. They've cornered they've gathered a good corner of the market for that. And yeah, the Loc Sound 5 decoder has been released. We're in a transition period right now. They're still getting, crossing the T's and dotting the I's on the new decoder and getting the manual out and that. But yeah, it's exciting times. They're moving to a bigger space. They're growing. They've hired people. There's this new decoder that's out. The cab control system has really outstripped, I think, their expectations already in terms of sales.
Oh, really? It's doing that well?
Yeah, Matt tells me it's doing super, super well. Again, I don't work for them. I just
I understand. But I think the story is that Matt came to Credit Valley, and you guys struck up a conversation, which turned into a friendship, and away you went.
A wonderful friendship. Yeah, Matt and I say we're brothers from different mothers. I got the looks, and he got the what did he get? Oh, he got something, but he's gonna kill me if he hears this.
Yeah.
But no, I love Matt like a brother, and I'm an only child, so he's he's sort of the brother I never had. But yeah, so we have a lot of chats, and I always say I don't work for him, but I'm sort of part of the.
Yeah, you're always with the crew. You got the swag going. What happened?
Uh-oh.
I didn't do it.
Yeah,
Not
Bruce,
me.
what did you do, Bruce?
I didn't do it.
That must have been Spoon.
It was not me. It
had to be. It had to be you.
No, I fixed everything. Remember?
Oh yeah, that's right. Did you set your headset correctly? Like you went and did the thing you're supposed to do to make your headset work properly?
How do I sound?
You sound pretty good. A little tinny, but not.
Because I set it as my default.
Oh, it works pretty. It's working good. I was just double checking. Okay. Touchy.
We lost him.
We've lost him at the hour and 30-minute mark. Now we're gonna have to entertain people until he comes back.
Yeah.
Elevator music. And just put the elevator music on until we get him back. I tell a really bad dad joke?
Sure.
Did you guys know that alligators can grow up to 15 feet? Most of them only have 4.
That's right.
Oh, man. You're flogging that one to death.
Yeah, really.
I like that one. That's like my favorite joke right now. And it's so stupid that it's just funny.
Hey, Kelly, speaking of big layouts, what's happening in your life? Because you're going to build a 30 by 60 building or something?
No, 15 by 36, I think it's going to be, but that's not going to happen for a while. But I'm working on the garage where I'll probably have, it'll be about 20 by 8, something like that, but it'll be a L-shaped.
So how many layouts are you going to build?
Just one right now.
And then
the building's not going to happen right away because it's just too much money.
Well, you were all like you were going to build this building. Now it's not happening?
Well, it's not happening because the money's not there.
Well, did you not know it was expensive before you started?
Oh, yeah, I knew it was expensive, but my wife was saying, we'll build it for you. We'll build it for you.
Uh-huh.
How old are you now?
I'm going to be 66 in August.
And what did we learn?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, you did. Yeah, but for the past, let's see, this is 2011. So for the past 8 years, I've been working on a very large layout in the clubhouse. So
There you go.
Well, exactly.
That's the other aspect of the hobby when we talk about stuff like that. If you want large, you join a large club.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of really good clubs out there now too.
Yeah. Speaking of large, when do you get the outdoor stuff out again?
Oh yeah.
I've started on that. I started because we lost our landscaper. He retired and moved out of the park. So there's about 3 or 4 of us that are trying to get ahead of the weeds. So I got the main line cleared, and now we're just working on the rest of the landscaping, cutting bushes and trimming trees and all that stuff.
You just kind of mount a lawnmower on the rails and push in the front, couldn't you?
Well, we don't have any grass growing on the rails.
Oh, okay.
So, but it's a lot of land. So it's like doing your lawn. You got weed eating and mowing and all that stuff. Up, he's back. He's back.
Hey, there he is.
Was it something we said, Bob?
Hello.
Was it something we said?
No, I don't know what happened there. Guess I didn't pay the internet bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a question. Are you with Bell?
No, Kojiko.
Kojiko. Okay. Well, nobody knows. Only Canadians know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a Stephen King book?
Yeah, Kojiko.
Kojo.
I'm not sure where I cut out on you.
Honestly, it was at about the 3-minute mark of the interview, and we've just been talking for the last hour and a half.
Well, you had asked me about what's new at ESU, and I was rambling, and it cut off somewhere in there. So,
yes, you were, and we did. And so, where are they moving to?
They are moving into the Bowser building. So, down in Montoursville, Pennsylvania. Oh, wow. Well, it sounds like a big thing, but it's really more of the same. ESU is currently in the old Bowser building,
right?
And the Old English's Model Railroad Supply, which is their hobby shop arm. So they moved to a bigger facility a few blocks away, and then ESU rents from Lee English, who owns Bowser, in the building that they're in. So Lee has sold the building, so they are moving into space that's attached to where Bowser is now. So they're still two separate businesses, and they're professionally separate, but Lee is still going to be the landlord there.
So yep. Bowser moved into a bigger space as well.
Yeah, that was years ago.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah. So yep. So it'll be good. They have more space, and Matt's hired on some more help to keep up with the growth that they've had.
So the hobby is not dying then.
No, not in their corner of it. That's for sure.
The hobby is not. I'm telling you, you said a mouthful at the start of this podcast when you said you started getting a sense. Kind of just quickly, very short. And I won't do it very well, but for the sake of our very own Mike the Spoon Ostertag, can you just kind of repeat what it was you said about what you thought it was going through a renaissance because?
Oh, I think that we were talking about the conversation we always seem to have about the hobby growing, and I just made the observation that yes, I think it's growing in terms of numbers, but I think it's also thickening it's also maturing, it's deepening, it's coming into its own, in the sense that I see a renaissance on Facebook with more and more people not just sharing, here's what I bought on Saturday at the train show, but also people starting to dabble in weathering and building kits and 3D printing, and people are really getting back to modeling. But then I also had said that I had spoken to Claire Gilbert at Sylvan Scale Models, and he was telling me that he's had to hire 1 or 2 full-time people to keep up with the demand for his resin. And resin is not a shake-the-box kit, and it's not model railroading 101. So if the resin's flying off the shelf, that tells me that there's a growing market for intermediate and advanced building.
Yeah. Now, is Claire saying that both his vehicles and the railroad side?
Well, I think there's no doubt that his, the vehicles are buttering his bread. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah.
But, we talked about those tank hoppers the Overland tank hoppers that I had recently done. He'll do a run of 50 cars if somebody wants to put an order together. That's my understanding. And he recently did a run of 50 tank hopper kits for a fellow out west, and they're sold.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, just because you sell a resin kit doesn't mean that it's going to be built. I mean, a lot of resin kits are the same as the brass.
Yeah.
They live in the cardboard grave forever, and I'm going to get to that someday. But the point is if people have the interest to actually even buy the kit, that tells me something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have you on the show on a regular basis because we're looking forward to you building your 30 by 40 foot basement empire.
Less is more. Less is more. Yeah. Maybe I'll switch to N scale.
Yeah, there you go.
Come on over to the dark side, why don't you?
You laugh. You laugh about S scale, but I love S scale. Trevor Marshall's a good friend of mine, and whenever I go over and look at his Port Rowan layout, it's amazing. How it just the heft of the locomotives on scale rail, and it's got the heft and the appeal of O scale, 2 rail O, but it doesn't require that much space.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trevor Marshall is one of the people that I blame for my conversion also.
Wow.
His modeling is pretty doggone good.
I think walking away, one of the best S-scale layouts that's around now, and it's going to become more and more prevalent, or prominent, not prevalent, prominent, is going to be Bob Frischella's.
Oh.
Talk about spectacular modeling.
Oh, absolutely. His layout is... I've had the honor of being able to go over and run it and to see it firsthand, and he hasn't even started to touch the surface of what that layout is going to end up being like. It's amazing.
We talked to him because I had him on just to talk about our possible interview with Mike Confalone, and then about his trip, his art and his trip from on the auto train and everything like that. We talked to him for about 20, 25, 30 minutes, and he didn't mention you at all.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Hey, look at this. The MV White Swan of Manitowoc, owned by the Oriental Mills Transit Company, built in 1922. Wrecked on Lake Michigan. There you go. That's on Sylvan Models. That's what you need, Manitowoc. All right, that's it. We got to get out of here. Bruce, can you give out our email address?
Yes, now that I'm back. Our email address, if you'd like to complain about the lack of me when my internet service cut out, please send us a message. Our email address is modelerslife, modelers with 1 L, modelerslife@gmail.com.
And we have a website, modelerslife.com. If you go there, you'll find links to all sorts of stuff in our crew page and our Patreon page.
Lipston, iTunes.
And if you join Patreon, you'll get twice as much stuff every month. And that's Chris Adams says that's where the meat of the sandwiches is on the Patreon. Well, that's on that channel we feature all our shows where we're reading viewer posts and all that stuff, and we get we enjoy doing that. Those are always good shows. And unfortunately, we were going to have David Start on tonight, but we've run out of time. Sorry, David.
We also got to vote for Mike on his covered hopper.
Yeah, we could vote
Oh,
for Mike on his covered hopper, but this particular
Oh, that'll be
episode,
afterwards.
yeah, this particular
And
episode.
don't forget about Andy. Don't forget about Andy.
Yeah, well, okay. Can I finish?
Sorry.
You know what we should do? We should do is a quick one where we can put it on a 10-minute one and we can talk about that again. So this will probably be broadcast towards the end of July, the 1st of August. So try not to get too excited.
Okay.
But the picnic has probably come and gone, and it was great to have Peter Borchardt there doing his meet and greet. There was a lot of people there. Unfortunately, he was a bit more standoffish than we were hoping for, but
And ran out of photographs, too.
yeah, and he ran out of photographs.
I did notice the women did get preferential treatment.
Yeah,
though.
exactly.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. All right. So, Bob, can you say at the appropriate moment, happy rails to you?
I can do it.
Is there anything else you wanted to list? Did we cover enough subjects for you? Is there anything you wanted to talk about, or are we good to go?
I think we're good to go. I need to get another T-shirt from you.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, they're $69 now.
Beautiful.
But for you, we'll let it go for 65.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get a couple T-shirts. I'll talk to you after, though.
All right. Well, Bob, as we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life, and the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say,
Happy rails to you.
Mr. Strang's wardrobe provided by The Dashing Camper. For all your fashion and tent repair needs, trust The Dashing Camper.
It's another Lincoln Homer.